What's going on, everyone? What's good? What's popping? What's new? This is your girl, Michelle, bringing you the hottest content on a Friday and not on a Tuesday, but I'm still going to call this a TT episode. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. So excited to be wrapping up our last episode in the Boundary series. And just to give everybody a recap, the first episode was an intro to boundaries in relationships. The second one was on physical and sexual boundaries. The third one was on emotional boundaries. The fourth one was on intellectual boundaries. The fifth one was on time boundaries. And now we are going to be talking about material/financial boundaries. And it's not really material/financial. I mean, financial is also part of material boundaries. So I'm so excited. I think this has been such an eye-opening series, especially for me. I've just learned so much just doing research on this. And I'm pretty sure there are other categories of boundaries that exist out there that I haven't even found. So if you have other boundaries that you know of, feel free to share with me at Unpacking Love. But anyway, let's go into today's content. First things first, what are material boundaries? Material boundaries are boundaries that you set around your assets. That could be money, a home, car, anything that you own. It could be called a material. And really, you're just setting those boundaries, again, to protect yourself from other people misusing whatever your things are, right? And obviously, every relationship is going to look different and every person is going to look different. So to some people, material things don't mean anything, but to some people, they really value their material things. And so this episode is going to be about those type of boundaries. Let's talk about people who are in a relationship. Now, a relationship obviously consists of two people. You're going to do a lot of activities together. Now, if you're in a relationship where, it doesn't matter to both of you who pays for what, then great. There's no need to set boundaries from the get-go. But if you're in a relationship where, one person or both people value their materials and they want things clearly defined, then it might be helpful to kind of talk about those things like, hey, when we go on dates, who's paying? Is it one of those things where when we go on a date today, I pay, but when we go on a date tomorrow, you pay? Is it? And I mean, I've had guys on the podcast who told me on the podcast and told everybody who was listening that they prefer to pay for like 90-something% of everything, right? So I think it's important, especially if your materials matter to you, for you to kind of state right from the get-go what those expectations and boundaries look like. And the whole thing is, you don't want to be in a relationship where, you end up feeling like you're paying for everything and that wasn't your intent, right? So it's kind of like resentment can build up because you're like, every time we do anything, whether we're eating, we're go-karting, we're going on a trip, I'm the one who's paying. So it might be helpful to just talk about, okay, when we go on trips, who pays for what? Is somebody taking care of like hotels? Is somebody taking care of flights? Are we splitting bills halfway? Is somebody, are we splitting it like 80-20? Because sometimes, you have an imbalance where maybe somebody makes more money than the other person, right? And the person who's making more money might be like, hey, I would take 80% of the bill. Do you want to do that? Or do you want to be like an equal partnership where you split it halfway? So talking about those things could really, really help you out so that you avoid sticky situations. Other things that might come up as well could be your car. Let's say one person has a car or both people have cars and one person's car breaks down, right? And Bay is like, hey, can I use your car? Now, if you don't feel comfortable with anybody outside of yourself driving your car, setting a boundary is you saying to your partner, like, hey, I love you and everything, but my car is kind of a no-go because I don't want to be in a situation where you get into an accident and you don't have insurance or insurance is under my name and I can't like recoup any losses on the car, right? So kind of saying those things upfront, or even as situations arise, just being able to talk about it if it is something that's on your mind. Like I said, every relationship is different. There are relationships where somebody can have a car, somebody doesn't have a car, and the person who has a car does not mind whatsoever. If you get the car and you drive it, even if you get into an accident, they would be fine with it. So it's really around, like I said, protecting what matters to you. Another example that we can talk about is, let's say you've been in a serious relationship, maybe it's gone on for like 2 years, but you've always wanted to buy a house or a home by yourself, right? Now you want to buy this home, but then your significant other is like, add me on the name to the home, even though maybe they're not contributing to the finances for the home. If you don't feel comfortable with adding somebody's name to a property, that you are paying for completely on your own, again, state it, right? Just say, hey, like this is something I've always wanted to do for myself. And since I'm paying for this specific house by myself, I really just want my name to be on it. And I think when it comes to materials, like I said, it's such a sticky situation because yes, of course, when you set a boundary, it might affect the other person some type of way. But if you don't say it and you just kind of go with the flow, then it's going to affect you some type of way, right? And I think it's always helpful to just talk about these things instead of keeping things inside. Okay, so let's talk about a situation where you're in a relationship and your partner needs to borrow money from you. Now, if finances matter to you, and let's say, for example, whenever you lend money to anybody, it could even be your own mother, your own father, your siblings, your best friend. Let's say whenever you lend anybody money, you always draw up a contract, where you're like, okay, on this day, this person, I'm lending this person this amount of money. And then like you always need the person to sign and you put a date on it. If that's something that matters to you, even in a relationship, you should feel very comfortable to voice that out and to let your partner know that, hey, sure, I can lend you the money, but this is something that I always do. And I want you to like sign this contract, right? Yes, of course, the other person might feel some type of way. But if you, as the person who will be affected by, let's say, for example, the person delaying payment, right? Then it's important for you to kind of state it to this person that like, okay, these are my expectations. If you're borrowing money, like let's set a date for when this money will come. And I think also it will solve other problems in the future, right? Like let's say, for example, you've lent your partner money and they haven't returned the money in like 3 years, right? Is that acceptable to you? Maybe the contract would have helped you because if your expectation was you were going to get that money in 6 months, then come 6 months later, this person has signed this contract. Hopefully they're going to own up to it. And if it gets to a point, let's say, for example, where, God forbid, you guys get into a breakup or you guys break up and now like you need to recoup the money that you had lent to this person, I guess you can take it to the police, like that's how you roll. You have this contract that has dates and signatures. And if you've always done it and it matters to you, by all means, do it and be able to be free to let your partner know. And I think also in the whole case of like save money, for example, I think it's also very important in a relationship to just be clear about something. If you are giving someone the money, right? Let's say your significant other wanted to borrow money, but you're like, no, I'm just going to help you out. This is a gift. Then tell them it's a gift. But if it's a case where you're actually lending money with the expectation that you get that money back, being very open about that. So those are material boundaries, which include financial boundaries. Just thinking around materials, if they matter to you, having those limits or having those boundaries can really help you protect what you value, right? And also just set expectations for the other person as well. So if you guys have any other boundaries that come to mind, feel free to let me know. Again, you can DM me at Unpacking Love. This has been such a great series. Like I said, for me, I've just learned a whole lot about a whole lot. And one thing that I'll just wrap up this episode with is boundaries are good. Boundaries are there to protect you from any situations that you don't want to be in. But always remember that the boundary should always be communicated, and also that if a boundary is broken, there should be consequences that should have been communicated when the boundaries were set. Thank you so much, you guys, for listening to this boundary series. I've received feedback. Thank you so much for the feedback that you guys have given me. I am just honored, honestly, to be doing this. Look out for a boundaries long episode that will be coming out. I'm going to have a guest or two. We'll see. But I'm going to have a guest for sure. And we're going to be talking about all the boundaries and just how it's worked out in relationships for us in the past. So yeah, that's it from me, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I will catch you in the next episode. Peace. Ndiwe